This is Empty the Bench with Tom Albano.
You know, we need somebody who can really bring out the best in Dak. It's not Dak's fault. Kellen Moore was just really bad. We need somebody who can really help utilize the running attack of Zeke and Pollard and really give Dak the ability to throw to his receivers without any sort of distraction.
Nick Morgasen.
Okay. X.
Shut the fuck up! You pile of shit! You useless swine! Take your feet picks and shove them up your ass!
Empty the Bench starts now.
Mike McCarthy doesn't get along with anybody except his stomach.
Oh, God.
I mean, I'm sorry. His stomach is closer to him than his coaching staff.
Ow! Right in his stomach.
Ouch. I felt that one all the way from here. And no, it's not Mike McCarthy's stomach, I promise. Welcome to episode 171 of Empty the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Tom Albano, Nick Morgasen. Follow the show on social media at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. Make sure you hit the button and subscribe as we climb on the subscriber chase to 1,000. I know it's a long way away, but we're at 211 as of this recording. It's a lot better than we were.
Trucking along. Also, don't forget to go to etbpodcast.com, our website, where you can find more information out about the network and check out the blog section, where you can find commentary from all our hosts who are contributing to the blog about different topics that are talked about on the shows, even some that are not talked about on the shows. Second week in a row that we are on Thursday this week, and might as well just get into it now. This was supposed to be a Wednesday airing, but we had some unfortunate technical difficulties, so we got pushed to Thursday. So we're starting a little early. So Empty the Bench is now airing on Thursdays as part of we talked about it last week, little shakeups here at the network. Empty the Bench moving over from the Wednesday 3 p.m. slot to the Thursday 3 p.m. slot. Me and my co-host over at MMA Outsiders, Sam Bando, MMA Outsiders now moving over from the Tuesday morning slot over to the Wednesday morning.
All the same times.
Yeah, all the same times, just moving over a day later.
And by the way, he's down at the Super Bowl. He's going to be doing a little bit of coverage for us from Super Bowl Row. It's the first time I've ever been allowed to say that before without it being a weird thing.
Radio Row, yeah, and we're gonna have somebody there. It's kind of amazing.
And by the way, make sure you check out Zan's blog that he just did on Laura Sanko.
Mm-hmm. We didn't get a chance to talk about that on the most recent MMA Outsiders, but Zan did a little nice blog piece on Laura Sanko, making history. First woman in modern MMA history to be commentating a UFC event, the first time since, I think, the original UFC. The UFC 1 was the last time we had a female commentator for a UFC card.
Modern era.
First in the modern era.
But go check that out, etbpodcast.com/blog if you're looking for other blog content while listening to the podcast that we put out across the network over the week. A lot to get into this week. We will do... what do you got?
I was going to say, and yet also for as much as it ruined our Wednesday goodbye, yet for the second straight week, a good kind of reason, good karma that we held off on the show.
Well, there's a positive and a negative to that story that you're referring to.
For you, but good for basketball history, I guess.
Well, actually, I think the positive is you're not going to think what I think is the positive. You're going to be shocked what I think is the negative of that story. But
all right, we'll get into
that.
Got to get into with this. We'll talk about a little bit of a report. Obviously, we're recording this on the Wednesday, so NBA trade deadline is coming up by the time this is coming out. In the coming days, Mixon with the Super Bowl coverage, we'll try to come up with some NBA trade deadline stuff. We'll obviously talk about the NBA trade deadline next week on a newer episode of Game On and a newer episode of Empty the Bench. We'll also talk about the other big story before this new big story. In that one, Kyrie Irving, well, Nick, you don't have to deal with him anymore. Out of Brooklyn over to Dallas.
I mean, again, it had to be done. We'll get into it. There's a lot of moving pieces to that. And also, Kyrie Irving has come out and basically said, I felt like I was being disrespected in Brooklyn.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
If you were disrespected, I'm afraid to know what anybody else feels like in Brooklyn right now.
We'll talk about also the NBA and the NBPA and their little CBA agreement. The early opt-out has been extended. So as they're in talks, I'm getting a little afraid talking about that. We'll talk about the latest updates on the futures of both Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. We'll discuss the supposed banishment of hip drop tackles that is being discussed. And then, of course, it is Super Bowl time. Super Bowl 57 coming up this Sunday between the Chiefs and Eagles. We'll briefly touch on it. And I only say briefly because Empty the Bench will be coming together with Game On for a little crossover preview show this Saturday, February 11th, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time. We'll be breaking down the game bit by bit. We'll go over some of the prop bets. We'll look at the lines as they are on Saturday. Go piece by piece, better quarterback, better receiving core, better lines. And ultimately, two of us, Johnny and Hank, will give our final Super Bowl prediction at that time as to who we think is going to win and what the score will be.
As of this recording, I think it's Eagles -3. Last time I checked. I'm not going to say anything about that, but I think that line's a little bit hot, to be honest, so far.
But obviously, the big talk of the sports town right now is history being made in the National Basketball Association. Finally, after years upon years, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring record has been toppled. LeBron James fulfilling what many people had hoped ever since he was first drafted into the NBA out of high school in 2003. If you go on the freezing cold takes thing, there were plenty of doubters, but LeBron has officially wiped anything off the table. Not just winning NBA championships in 2 cities, actually 3 cities, pardon me.
3 cities.
Now,
Yeah.
and now he is the all-time NBA scoring champion.
Now, we need to differentiate a couple things. All-time scoring leader and the GOAT. Okay, they're two different things because people are having this misconception that when you're the all-time scoring leader, that makes you the GOAT. No, LeBron is not the GOAT. We need to stop that. Right, I'm gonna nip that in the bud right now before anyone brings that up.
It is starting back up the LeBron versus MJ debate.
Okay, but you could again. This is like
I know they're two different eras. We've talked about this one.
Oh no, I wasn't even going to say that. I mean, that's a good argument. That actually helps my argument further. But I was going to say that's like in any sport. You get more regular season hits in baseball, but you never win a World Series or you never go to the playoffs. Ask Don Mattingly how he feels about that. I mean,
fortunately,
I think 1 year, and I think one got affected by the strike 1 year. I mean, so he one of the greatest first basemen in Yankees of all time, but he doesn't have the playoff track record behind him. It's the same thing. Now, I know it's a little different. LeBron has been to the playoffs almost every year he's been in the NBA, but he's lost more NBA finals than he's won. Michael has pretty much won. What is he? He's pretty much undefeated in NBA finals. Almost.
But again, I think you could also argue the players and the teams that were around in Jordan's time versus the teams that are around in LeBron's time. That there's that kind of argument that has to be made on that. If you,
I think the soft era versus the hard era too, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is you could literally kick somebody and knock them over in the Jordan era, and there were no wimps way back when. Now it's.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, are you talking about refs and their whistles, fouls being called more often?
Oh, well, that's part of it, but also players are more sensitive. They're looking for contact. Way back when in the Jordan era, you weren't looking for contact; you expected contact. So it's different eras of NBA way back when.
Looking at LeBron and this kind of accomplishment, I mean, I I mean, you have to say, even if you don't think LeBron is the GOAT compared to an MJ or compared to a Kobe, what he has done throughout his career and what he has done just the other day, accomplishing this feat, is something that you can't take away.
Right.
This is going to be, like he has solidified himself. He had already solidified himself in the history books. He already had left his footprint for better in some areas and maybe for worse in some. But there's no arguing now that he is one of the greatest players of all time. Even if you want to argue he's not as good as he was 4 or 5 years, even 4 or 5 years ago. Even if you want to argue about how the Lakers are right now and that the team doesn't seem to have much future around it, and the team has been struggling ever since they won the championship, the NBA Finals during the COVID era. I mean, during the COVID season.
And
Ultimately,
I don't even consider that a title, to be honest.
ultimately, at the end of the day, though, LeBron James has accomplished, something that everyone would want to accomplish. As I mentioned, he had a lot of doubters. There were all these concerns about an 8-year-old kid from Akron, Ohio, coming into the NBA straight out of high school, and many thoughts, like they would broadcast. I remember because there was this part in the interruption
High
year.
school games.
Yeah, they would broadcast his high school games.
That's what they're doing. Ironically, they were doing that to his son.
Right, his son is gonna have, and that scares me a little bit because his son is going to have some major,
Shoes.
major shoes to fill and major expectations.
And by the way, I don't see him being as great as LeBron. LeBron is like a 1 in a billion type player coming out of high school, had all the attention from the time. I think even from the time when he was a teenager, forget 18, and just having all this media coverage. I mean, I've heard stories that LeBron had so much pressure that he was smoking pot on the side during, and I've heard that story many times, like that he's under so much pressure to perform when he was younger. So,
Well, does that speak more about the kind of expectations that will put on some athletes?
yes, absolutely,
And,
a million
especially,
percent.
especially as media has evolved, because you think about when LeBron was coming out of high school into the NBA, early 2000s. I mean, social media still had not developed into the juggernaut that it is right now.
I mean, you didn't see Facebook or Twitter until like 2006 or 2007. So it was more word of mouth, hearsay. People took video on their camera, but they weren't posting it.
Television, radio, dare I say, still newspaper.
Journalism, yes. But totally different era now. When you're a big time athlete, you could become a star just from social media. I mean, look at TikTok, look at Twitter, look at Instagram. If you make viral, you can make viral videos as an athlete and become famous like that.
Also, I think it's also a matter of just that we too often in media, and Nick, you and I are probably guilty of it as well. A lot of comparison in the hype. I mean, calling Bronny Jr., oh, he's going to be the next, like his dad, he's going to be the next LeBron. We're Yankee fans. How many times, Nick, have we heard Anthony Volpe going to be the next Derek Jeter? One of those catchers down in the minors going to be the next Jorge Posada. Like too often, even Aaron Rodgers, all the comparisons when he first got up, when he was first starting.
The
Okay,
Favre.
he's succeeding Brett Favre. Is he going to be the next Brett Favre? Too many times have we we'll do all these comparing and contrasting rather than letting an athlete develop on their own into their own being of sorts.
I think, unfortunately, the reason we do all that comparing is because we're trying to find what type of athlete, what type of position, what type of star quality are they going to be. That's unfortunately why we compare young athletes to ones that have been around. Now, actually, people are going to say, well, what do you mean? I haven't heard anything about Anthony Volpe to Derek Jeter. Go check out the interview we did with him. We asked him that question, and he very humbly didn't want to be compared to Derek Jeter, if I remember correctly, right? So, I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yep.
I don't know. It's
There was actually sorry. I
yeah,
just thought to my head. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Okay, I think there's a little bit of a delay on our end. Anyways, I was just thinking about Tom Brady. I forget where it was. I was trying to look it up, but it might have caused a little bit of lag. But basically, where he was saying, I forget where he said this, but he said like when all these young athletes are coming, I don't want any of them to be compared to me. I don't want them to be the next Tom Brady. I want them to be the next. I think it might have been a commercial.
Well, there was a LeBron James commercial. If you remember, they were doing like this weird movie thing, and like there was hologram of him when they went into his house, and it was I don't know, but
Actually, yeah, right here. So there was a TB12 commercial where it's Tom Brady and there's a letter and it's him and Morgan Freeman and it's basically talking about
yes,
when they say you're next about rising above expectations, but also saying don't be compared to me. And you know what's funny? When I Googled Tom Brady be the next Tom Brady to try to look at it, first thing that comes up on my phone from Football Outsiders a couple of hours ago before we record is Joe Burrow the next Tom Brady.
that's so frustrating to me. Like, stop comparing athletes to other athletes. Every athlete is their own creative body of work, in my opinion. There's no, you could say people are like athletes, but they're never going to be these athletes. There's only one Tom Brady. There's one LeBron James. There's one Derek Jeter. I mean, there's a million people who play the positions, but there's only very few that are the one in a billion that make it to a Hall of Fame career.
I mean, on that note, Nick, I mean, looking at LeBron. Now, I know you have not been the biggest LeBron fan. I am so on him. I respect what he does on the court. I know you have been drinking the haterade a little bit. Let's put it that way.
Well, let me say one thing
Okay.
that I respect the fact that he broke the point record. Because again, you were going back to how long? It's been 40 years that record has been held on to by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now, for a record to be held on to 40 years, that's saying something. That's an insane feat in its own. Now, Kareem was also playing in an era with the hook shot and all of that stuff. You don't see that anymore. But he was a man ahead of his time with scoring. And the 3-point line was not the same thing. 3-point shooting wasn't a thing way back when. I mean, there were people who thought Steph Curry was going to get up there in the point record with all the threes that he's putting up and hitting.
I mean, there are generations like the kind of players that like Kareem and LeBron. They only come once or twice in a generation. You don't see a player every day like the kind of people that we're talking about. And speaking of Steph Curry, what I was going to go to was last NBA Finals when he won the NBA Finals and won the NBA Finals MVP. We said, okay, Steph Curry has already had an unbelievable career. It was probably going to the Hall of Fame, and now this just somehow added on to his legacy. It's obviously going to add on to LeBron's legacy, but
here's the thing, though. We're not questioning LeBron as a Hall of Famer. We're not
exactly.
We're not questioning Steph Curry as a Hall of Famer, considering the amount of NBA Finals MVPs and championships they've won. Again, it's different. The one weird sport that seems to care about, or is it the other way? The numbers. MLB cares about numbers during the regular season only. NBA seems to care more about career. NFL seems to care more about career. It's weird in that sense. So the NBA, I mean, LeBron has the accolades plus the championship, so it's not a question for him. So being being number one in scoring, which no one's going to catch him at this point, because he's probably going to play another 2 seasons. He's going to have 40,000 plus points by the end of his career.
Like I said, maybe in another 30, 40 years or so, but not anytime soon.
I mean, also, and I know people have this debate about, like we started to say, eras of basketball. Again, I consider this one the 3-point shooting era of basketball in that regard, because everyone's looking to shoot threes. Everyone. There's no longer... We lost the Shaq era of basketball, where we dump the ball down to Shaq in the paint, and then he just spins around and dunks over someone in a poster. You don't see the only time you see dunks is in open lanes.
Or
now.
or you foul Shaq and cause hack a Shaq.
I mean, you know what's weird? Like they're not really doing that as much anymore. You're not purposely. I'm saying they're only doing it to stop the clock at the end of games.
Also, I don't think anybody is just ever going to be as terrible of a free throw shooter as Shaquille O'Neal.
I mean, Ben Wallace was pretty bad.
Okay, fair enough.
Rudy Gobert was pretty bad now in today's game. But you're right. No one is as bad as Shaq.
Today with Gobert, but not before.
But you're seeing what's changing now is you're seeing the big men being pulled off the court in the last, up to the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter because you can't hack a Shaq. They've changed that rule finally years ago that you can't hack somebody with 2 minutes left in the game. So I think it's a good rule, by the way, because then you're not affecting the game all the way down to the buzzer, the fourth quarter. But it's a great feat. I can't deny it. There's no haterade here. This is a hard record to get. It took a long time, 40 years, for someone to get to that points record. But people need to slow it down. LeBron is not the GOAT. I was looking at some lists of people that were putting out top 5 NBA players / scorers of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to Keyshawn, J-Will, and Max, which is the morning show on ESPN Radio. And Max Kellerman, now, you know Max Kellerman a little better than I do from that world.
Yes.
But he put out a list, a top 5 list without LeBron in it.
And out of curiosity, if you remember.
So he had Durant. I don't remember the order, but he had Durant in the top. He had Kobe in the top. He had Wilt, and he had Kareem. How many is that? Is that 4?
4. Kobe, Wilt, Kareem, MJ. Okay, MJ was the other. Okay.
And Durant.
Why the hell is Kevin Durant in that top 5?
I don't agree with it. I obviously don't agree with it. But
whether you like
the other 4,
or hate, how are you putting Kevin Durant over LeBron James?
The other 4, I have
sorry. No, I'm sorry for all that LeBron James has done on the court as compared to Kevin Durant. I mean, good God.
I mean, you could argue and debate with Durant and Steph Curry and Golden State winning the championships, but I'm not saying for career, but you could debate championships wise that he could have that upper hand. But I was a little confused that Kevin Durant was in Kellerman's top 5 list because, first of all, Durant's been hurt the last couple seasons. LeBron has pretty much played. He's had little knick-knack injuries here and there. Another interesting thing you probably didn't know about LeBron. LeBron pays $1 million a year for health on his body.
Kind of not shocked. Also, if we're going to add to that list, Kevin Durant cannot put a team on his back and take them to an NBA Finals, kind of like how LeBron has had to do a couple of years, especially a couple of those later years with Cleveland.
I mean, he was... by the way, I still think the...
I'll add one more, Nick. I'm sorry. I'll add one more.
Okay.
All 4 years with Miami making it to the NBA Finals, and then the 4 years afterwards with Cleveland, 8 straight NBA Finals appearances.
Well, that's insane, but I don't think his record in those were great, to be honest. I don't remember.
But again, a couple of those teams, like those last 2 Cleveland teams.
Well, actually, was that 8 years involved the 2 Cleveland Golden State finals in there?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, right.
Oh, no, 4. Oh, all 4 of them were Cleveland and Golden State.
Oh, was it? You're right. It was all 4. But I totally forgot what I was going to say. But LeBron, I don't know. People. Oh, we were talking about Durant and
Durant.
People need to realize Durant is, and this is going to sound awful, but Durant is like 3 steps below LeBron James. Like, and people are going to.
I don't know if I'd say 3 steps, but 1 or 2? Yeah, I agree.
Well, the reason I say it is because what has Kevin Durant done in the last 3 years? Been hurt.
I mean, granted, LeBron has also had his little hiccups, but at least with LeBron, you can, as much as you don't want to count it, you can point to that COVID season and say he's got a championship. Brooklyn, we've talked about, and we're going to talk about more once we get to Kyrie, about the number of chances that Brooklyn had that, oh, we thought this was going to be, it's must win. They're going to have a great season, and Brooklyn just don't deliver.
Oh, and the other thing we were talking about, LeBron carrying a team on his back. That's what we were talking about, which LeBron the last couple of years has not done a good job of that whatsoever. Even with AD, has not done a good job of that. And I should actually, let me bring that part of it up as well, because so the weird thing, everyone in crypto.com, I almost said Staples Center, because in my opinion, it's still Staples Center as long as I live.
Staples Center to me, damn it.
I fuck crypto.com arena. I give two shits. Anyway, so everyone in the arena is either holding up a phone or a video device. You don't want to miss that moment at all.
Oh, and everybody's jumping around, have the camera, and then here's AD.
Right. So everyone on the bench is basically just standing up on the bench, and AD is pretty much just comatose, sitting there, doing nothing, mind his own business, head down, shot goes in. Every Laker teammate, which is standing up, is jumping up and down. And AD, it basically looks like what Tom is sitting right now. And
I know his response afterwards is that I don't care about the individual achievements. I care about us winning. And I mean, first of all, really kind of unfortunate that this big accomplishment comes
in a loss, by the way.
In a loss.
To OKC.
Well, let's face it. What the hell are the Lakers doing this season anyway?
Nothing. Zero. The 13th, I think they're the 13th seed, if I'm not mistaken.
But that doesn't mean you can't celebrate the individual accomplishments. I mean, take for instance, we mentioned Derek Jeter before, since we're Yankee fans. He always was. You could see from the media how he handled media. He was always team above everything and being a team player. But when he hit the home run to get the 3,000th hit, he allowed himself to have the moment. When he broke Lou Gehrig's Yankee hits record in 2009, the first year of the new stadium, he allowed himself to have his moment. When he was retiring, he allowed himself to have his moment. Maybe you want to argue that's a little different because that's retirement. But the point is, Derek always allowed himself to have the moment. And we should, whether in good seasons or bad, whether you like an athlete or hate an athlete, you're not the biggest fan. When you have an accomplishment like LeBron James has done, I think they kind of have the right to be celebrated. As you mentioned, 40-year record. Once in a generation player.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally look past all the hate for breaking a 40-year record. I mean, if you can't look past your LeBron hate for a 40-year record, that's on you as an individual, as a person, as you hear me say all the time. If you can't look past for an accomplishment over your hate, there's something wrong. There's a screw loose in your head if you can't look past for a record. But the whole AD, Anthony Davis thing, I'm sorry, that was totally inappropriate in every way, shape, or form. Save your going on a soapbox for the off season when you're not playing games.
So you're gonna maybe a little bit of me stirring the pot. But is the relationship between AD and LeBron all that strong anymore?
I did a YouTube short on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB network, by the way. Go check it out. I basically wrote in the YouTube short, Anthony Davis hates LeBron James ?
I mean, tabloid media now.
No, but I actually think there's a problem between the two of them. It's weird. Like, why aren't you reacting to your teammate breaking an all-time record?
Yeah, there's something not right there.
Also, Kareem in the arena when the record broke. I mean, everything was set up By the way, I think it was done purposely on TNT, but that's another discussion for another day. Yeah, AD was acting completely inappropriate. And I'm calling him out for it because what have you done in your 2 or 3 seasons since you've been traded from the Pelicans to the Lakers? You've been hurt. You've done nothing. Zilch, zero. Anyway, you could say zero. And that's how you react?
No.
And there's videos going around also besides the one I put up where basically LeBron is, I think he's mic'd. I think they did that on purpose. No, he was going to break the record.
And he curses.
Well, I'm not even, well, I was going to go to somewhere else first, where he's sitting on the bench next to AD and had his arm around him trying to like either console because he's like in a down mood, and like AD didn't react to LeBron whatsoever. Like, what the hell is that?
Again, I hate to stir the pot because I don't want to be that kind of person, but
you're not stirring the pot. We're pointing out legitimate concern.
That's got to be going on over there.
I mean, the weird part is this kind of reminds me of Kevin Love when LeBron was in Cleveland. Remember when Kevin Love was going through all the mental health issues and basically gave up on the team? And I don't mean that in a mean way, but he basically just didn't play. And LeBron basically had to put the team on his back with who else? J.R. Smith. But
that meme will never die.
But it's just it's weird because the situations are similar in that regard. Where I don't know, does AD have something mentally going on? I don't know, but AD's been hurt a lot. Anthony Davis needs to find a way to get back on the court and do something. Otherwise, his career is turning into bust territory. It is, and not because of his talent. He's got talent. When he's healthy, he is one of the top 10 players in the NBA. But we've seen way more non-healthy than healthy. But
all right,
it is what it is.
So let's move on from that, and let's go over to something. This will probably be resolved by the time we talk about by the time the episode comes out, but it's the only time we're going to talk about it. So let's just touch on it for a minute, Nick. There's all this talk about D'Angelo Russell now joining the Lakers, and there is a chance that Russell Westbrook could be on the ship again, traded over to Utah in this strange 3-team trade, potentially with Mike Conley Jr. also going to Minnesota.
I mean, I'm not surprised because we're coming up on the NBA trade deadline. This episode drops on NBA trade deadline day.
Yeah, so let's say by the time our episode comes out, this deal drops.
I mean, I'm seeing a bunch of the NBA insiders reporting on it, so it does look like it's probably going to happen in some way, shape, or form.
As long as this happens, your reaction?
It's an interesting deal. I'll say that much first. The Timberwolves are a bust, and you've heard me say that all season.
We said going into the offseason after they made their all-season trade, we said, "Oh my God, the Timberwolves look like they could be, a dark horse, that they have all the potential in the world," and just I don't think it hasn't played out.
And the Timberwolves made a huge sacrifice with the amount of draft capital they sent to Utah. By the way, Danny Ainge probably should be up there as executive of the year, considering Utah is playing well, which no one thought, and they have all that draft capital coming to them. But I don't know. They were a disappointment when they got Rudy Gobert. People said, "Oh my God, we're going to pair Rudy Gobert with Karl Anthony Towns, and we're going to run everybody over with 2 big men." Nope, not the case.
Didn't happen.
I think they're 8th or 9th as we speak, but it's you're going to see a lot of deals like this because people are looking to shed cap space. Because again, we're worried about cap space. I won't get into that at this point in time, but when we talk about the NBA NBPA, that'll be just put a bookmark on that thought. But just look at this deal. D'Angelo Russell, I think, needs a new start. Now, they're talking about him going back to LA again. Now, is this a LeBron desperation move? Because LeBron is basically behind the scenes pulling the marionette of Rob Pelinka and saying, "Get me my B-level players so I can win again." I mean, Newsflash, LeBron, you're not winning this year. It's over. Sorry.
Oh, look at that. The haterade is back.
I'm just pointing out the facts. This has nothing to do with me hating him. Like, the Lakers are a horrible team this year.
Oh, you're not wrong. You're not wrong on that.
Trust me, you got enough LeBron-like out of me for the points record. Now I got to make sure I talk honest. But D'Angelo Russell, I think, would be a decent fit back in LA. LeBron needs someone a little bit younger, someone who's willing. Now, the reason D'Angelo got traded was because originally in LA it didn't work with all the pieces. And I said, all right, that's not a bad deal. They got rid of him. But now Russell Westbrook's name is back in the fold. I feel like we need like
might actually get moved.
We might need a bat signal for Russell Westbrook at this point for the amount of times he's been traded.
Westbrook.
We're gonna
Westbrook. 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 Westbrook.
By the way, you're welcome. Anyway, what was I going to say? So basically, the way I look at this is a money dump to me. Where is it? Russell Westbrook is making like 44, 45 million, like KD, or it might be more. I want to look that up. What's that site that we use again for the salary?
Usually it's like Spot Track or something.
Let's see.
So Kevin Durant contract. Yeah, it's on Spot Track. He has a
47 million.
Yeah,
47 million for Russell Westbrook. And that was part of a player option, so they're kind of in stuck at the moment with a $47 million cap hit, which is insane. Absolutely insane. But now they're talking about Westbrook going to Utah, which, do you really want to mess with Utah right now, the way they're playing? You want to put Russell Westbrook there? Oi.
Unless there's going to be some other crazy thing. But the thing is, it's Russell Westbrook and a draft pick, and it's most likely that if it's a draft pick compensation, it's going to be another first-round pick. So are they?
Oh, wait a minute. I missed this from Chris Haynes, who put this out a little while ago before we recorded. In the three-team deal being discussed between the Lakers, Wolves, and Jazz, a buyout for Russell Westbrook in Utah would be the likely path.
So again,
cap space.
Well, I was gonna say it's not so much Westbrook. It's that draft pick. It's gonna be another first round pick in Danny Ainge's future.
Yeah, it's cap space, and that's pretty much what they're doing here. They don't want him. Why would you want him in Utah?
Right. No, you're right. It's not about him. They're taking the cap hit so that way they can get what? How many first round picks do they have in the coming years?
What, Utah? Oh, they got to have like at least 7 or 8, at least.
That's what it's about.
Now, some people are annoyed with that because that means all you're doing is stocking and not doing anything. I would be annoyed with that a little bit too.
I understand, but I think Utah, well, again, Utah was not supposed to be as good as they are this year.
They're playing spectacular. They are.
They are really. They are just. You know what that is? The Utah Minnesota deal of this season, Nick, is.
Did I lose you for a second?
This last NBA offseason's version of Bron.
Oh, now I got you. I tried to open a browser. That's why you froze for a second. So, say that again. Sorry.
Nick, the Utah-Minnesota deal from this last offseason that we thought Minnesota won and Utah is just blowing it out of one performance spectacular. I would compare that to last NFL offseason, the Broncos-Seahawks trade with Russell Wilson. We thought Denver was going to go on to great things, and instead Seahawks are the ones with a top 5 pick and had a playoff spot this year as Geno Smith performed out of his mind, at least for the first half of the season.
Right. I don't know. This weird. First of all, of all those picks that Utah has, how many are we expecting to be the outbreak all-star? One? Maybe?
Maybe one.
You could stock as many first-round unprotected picks or protected picks that you want. It doesn't mean they're all going to work out. If they were smart, they would trade 2 or 3 of those picks and try to get a star or someone to play in Utah. That would be the way to go. Now, our star's going to be scared to play in Utah after the whole Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert bullshit that went down over the last couple of years. So, I don't know. Utah has a fine line to walk.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
All right. Now let's make you angry.
Great.
Well, I shouldn't say angry, but let's talk about Kyrie Irving. But you know what? It's in a good way. You know, if it wasn't copyrighted right here, we would play Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead. Because you don't have to deal with Kyrie Irving anymore. No, traded from the Brooklyn Nets to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Spencer Dinwiddie, welcome back, Dorian Finney-Smith, a 2029 first, and second-round picks in both 2027 and 2029.
Yeah. Well, I guess the way to start this off would be, because that's how happy I am to see him out of here.
And the other way we can start this off, hang on 1 second. Let me lower my monitor here. Because you know what sound effect I'm looking for. Time for you to get hot.
Well, yes and no. But Kyrie Irving had to go. He had to go. He didn't fit in Brooklyn anymore. It was done. There were no more chances. Okay, it didn't work it started not to work in Cleveland. Then he went to Boston. It didn't work. Then he goes to the Nets. Plays close to 4 years. The records were identical on and off the court. But then you have all these issues off the court. You won't get vaccinated for the COVID vaccine. Misses 70-something games and refuses to play. Sits in the stands watching the game while the team is playing. Which, don't ask me why that was allowed, but they allowed it for whatever reason. The anti-Semitic movie comments.
Oh.
3 strikes and you're out.
Plus all the drama that the Nets had last offseason about Kevin Durant requesting a trade, and is he going to stay? Is he going to get shipped off? Are they going to be brothers and get shipped together? Or is there some sort of clash going on? Kevin Durant actually just had a conversation very recently with Joe Tsai about the direction of the Nets, and the recent reports, as of the time we're recording before the deadline, is that the expectation is Kevin Durant will stay in Brooklyn past the trade deadline.
All right, I'm going to repeat this for the 10 millionth time. Okay, for the Kevin Durant trade rumors that people are dumb fucks and don't understand how trade numbers have to work together to make an NBA trade. Okay, I can't believe I have to say this for the 10 millionth time. And not you, but people who out there don't understand how trades work. In the NBA, the salaries have to match. Okay? They have to match. People think that the Nets are just going to go out there and say, I'm going to give up Kevin Durant and I'm going to take these 2 guys back. It doesn't work like that. Until people who say they're phony NBA fans, who say they understand how this stuff works, don't talk. Because you obviously don't know how the trades work.
It's called like the 125% rule or something like that.
Right. And it's going to take a lot. First of all, Joe Tsai, the owner of the Nets, has come out and said it's off the table. It's not happening. And I don't blame him. You want Durant. But as long as he's healthy. Yes. He's a top 5 player in the NBA when healthy. They need him. He's your A. You need and this deal that they made for Kyrie Irving. So, that, like you said, they got Dinwiddie, they got Dorian Finney-Smith, they got a 2029 first-round protected, 27 and 2029 seconds that are unprotected. Now, originally, when we tried to record this show yesterday, I had said there was a scenario that I thought would have been good, and then you pointed out to me because of Damian Lillard's contract that he can't be traded, but that's the scenario I would have gone. I would have gone to Portland and said, here's my protected first, here's my 2 seconds, and we'll throw in somebody else, and we'll take Damian Lillard off your hands. That would have been good, but because of a stupid contract stipulation, you can't be traded at the deadline.
Yeah, and well, as much as Portland, is a no-show right now, Lil Dame's their guy, and they're not going to get rid of him unless they get a package of all package. The Godfather, the offer you can't refuse.
Right. Now, like I said, Durant is going to cost like 7 or 8 high draft picks, which that's going to include pick swaps and such and all that stuff.
Oh, we talked about that with when they trade requests last going, that if he was traded, it was probably going to be the biggest one of the biggest trades in NBA history, just for what the Nets would need to receive.
Right. It's the joke I think I made when we were talking about those rumors was that it's going to cost somebody's whole team to take Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and I'll say it to you again, Kyrie Irving and the deal, I think the Nets got way more and should be happy with what they got in this deal. A lot of people say, oh my God, they got hosed. No, they didn't get hosed. Kyrie Irving is a headache, and they managed to get an unprotected first and 2 second-round picks on top of Spencer Dinwiddie back, who they never should have traded in the first place.
I was going to say, is this regret maybe on the Dinwiddie part?
Could be. Anything is possible.
Although I did read something on Twitter that they were looking to potentially flip Dinwiddie as well.
Again, why? There's no reason. Spencer Dinwiddie is a great player. Let him play. He's a good piece.
I'm double checking the Twitter sphere to see if it happened. Let's see.
While you're looking it up.
Okay. Well, let me put it to you this way, since NBA deadline is still coming up as we're recording this. What happens if tomorrow, when the show airs, what happens if we see something along the lines of the reports that are coming out about the potential deal, that Dinwiddie then gets flipped to Toronto and the Nets are able to get Fred Van Fleet?
Now, I think I said to you I'd be ecstatic because Fred Van Fleet is a great player out of Toronto,
yes.
who gave the Nets a lot of fits in those playoff runs way back when. Yeah, I'd be happy with that, but I like Dinwiddie too. Like, big men are hard to come by. They are.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. The Nets need to do stuff, but they need to not be so hostile and jump on the panic button right away.
Agreed, but going back to kind of a point that you talked about, and a point where, going back to when Kevin Durant made the trade request, and there was all this talking about him and all this talk right now about the future direction of the team. There was at some point where we said, if maybe Joe Tsai needs to cut losses. Now, I know what we're talking about how some of these trades are very hard to pull off because of rules like the 125% rule and the matching salaries. But I think, and I kind of think you would kind of agree, that even if you thought Dinwiddie, Finney-Smith, and all of this was, not exactly, it doesn't meet the standards of an Irving, considering the headaches, maybe it was time. Even if KD were to get flipped by deadline, considering some of the headaches, because it wasn't that long ago, Nick, last summer, where we were talking about when KD had made the request, and after all of Kyrie's headaches, we said, is it best for the Nets to cut their losses and just hit resets?
Well, first of all, you can't really reset on KD because you just signed up to a 4-year extension, so you can't reset.
Obviously, and considering that they didn't trade him then, and they're not going to trade him again, there is no. They're trying to not hit reset, but try to do. I guess we would compare a soft boot, maybe.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Yankees, doesn't it?
Fair enough.
But the thing I give a lot of credit to Tsai is that he's not going to take bullshit from these guys who are stars. And that's how it should be. And you want a blueprint of how you handle your stars? Look at Joe Tsai and the Nets. Forget my bias as a fan. I'm talking about this is the owner you should be following a blueprint for. Hey, you're demanding, get the hell out of my office and go play and prove you deserve it. That's what it should be.
And
now,
actually, you had more praise for Joe Tsai when we tried recording this last time. When I brought up the report from Mark Stein that Joe Tsai's biggest goal in all of this wasn't specifically to get Kyrie out of here. It was that he did not want to send Kyrie to the Lakers. He did not want to reunite Kyrie and LeBron.
Yes, and you know what? I give him a lot of credit for that because a lot of owners who wouldn't want to deal with that nonsense would just say, all right, anyone who's willing to take him off my hand, take him. You know what? Decides like, I too can play that game. You want to be a headache towards me? I'm going to send you to Dallas, and you're going to have to go deal with that. And on top of that, he cost himself money because he can only sign a 2-year, $80 million extension during the season now.
Well, let's talk about him and his new home. We do have reports of potential deals that could have happened, but let's stick with the fact that Kyrie's now in Dallas. He's going to be playing alongside Luka. What do you see for Kyrie's future now in a Mavericks uniform? Under Jason Kidd's rule, under Mark Cuban's rule.
I don't know how much Mark Cuban had to, even though he owns the team and he has to approve everything. I don't know how much Mark Cuban was really involved in this move, or if it was. I'm
just saying, playing under him. I'm just trying to imagine if Kyrie pulled any of the BS he pulled in Brooklyn with him.
Well, Mark Mark Cuban is heavily involved in the Mavericks.
Oh yeah,
so
I know.
If he pulls this shit, like Mark Cuban is going to be down on that court faster than you can count. I mean, here's the thing. I think Dallas is taking a huge, huge risk bringing Kyrie Irving into the Mavericks. And Luka, who's having the year of all years, finally coming into form, triple doubles, might have a chance to be MVP. Why would you bring someone in who's a goddamn headache? Why would you do that? What are you accomplishing? All right. Could this be the one and done thing? Could Mark Cuban be thinking, oh, if I bring Kyrie Irving in, even though I don't think that's enough time to really gel and create chemistry in that regard. But could this be Mark saying, oh, well, let's team up Luka and Kyrie together. Maybe we have a chance to win a title. And then if we win a title, I can convince him to sign a max extension in the offseason. I mean, well, I'm just talking about thought process. It's not what I would do. Now, I know. Kyrie, and I forgot to mention this with the Nets. He went to the Dallas media, the media down there in Dallas, and said, I felt disrespected by the Brooklyn Nets, and that's why I wanted out. You felt disrespected?
I'm sorry. Hold on. When you refused to get the COVID vaccine for your fellow person, when you said, when you made those comments and promoted that movie full of anti-Semitism, really? You felt disrespected?
And also, to make that situation worse, the whole thing with Nick Friedel basically saying, you're not important to me. First of all, rude and disrespectful.
You're belittling me or something like that.
Yes. He wasn't belittling you.
Oh, no. What is it?
Dehumanizing me. Now, you know this all too well from going to the MMA events and sitting. You went to the one in, what was it, Brooklyn or?
No, Manhattan for 244.
At the pier, right?
Yeah.
You know this all too well, going and sitting at an event and asking questions, and the athletes or fighters sitting there. We're doing our job as the media. You have no right to say you're being belittled after all the bullshit you've pulled. You get nothing. You better go to Dallas. You better ship shape. You better stop with all the nonsense, and you got to prove you can win. Now, people are saying, well, he hit the game-winning shot for, what was it, for Cleveland when LeBron was still there that year?
Mhm.
But I'm done. Kyrie Irving's a headache, a basket case, a head case, whichever term you want to use. Oh, and I'll go back to the thing that you were shocked that I said when we tried to record this yesterday.
Mhm.
Kyrie Irving is the new number one headache over LeBron James.
Yeah. Can you explain a little bit more about that one?
So, my problem with LeBron over the years has been some things he says to the media, some things he does off the court, or better yet, just he thinks that he just runs the NBA. He thinks he's the commissioner of the sport.
He is the de facto commissioner of the sport. He is the de facto head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. He is the de facto popcorn guy in Section 312.
Right. So Kyrie, on the other hand, could give two shits about anybody. LeBron at least cares in some aspect regard. He wants to win on the court. Even though like we deal with all this nonsense with LeBron that he says off the court and everything that went on with the COVID stuff to supposedly holding a wine an event outdoors for his wine company and
Something like that.
And they allowed him to slip by not wearing the mask or getting the vaccine or whatnot. But
yeah, there's definitely been favoritism to LeBron over the years, but LeBron has also not been, and even some of the things that you said that he said you might shake your head at, he hasn't done anything to disrupt his own team,
right.
Refusing or like, well, I can't say that because we had all the
We still don't know the answer to that.
I'd say we had all the controversy when they first came out, but then again, that was the league in general because we're talking about the NBA potentially jumping the line. That was the whole NBA as a general. That was not just LeBron.
That wasn't just him, though.
But the anti comments, LeBron is not stupid enough to go up there and throw anti-Semitism.
Now, you don't know. I'm sure he said stuff behind closed doors and all that shit. We don't know, but like. I think the only thing we get mad at LeBron for is all the business shit that he does on the side, on top. Like, you make enough money. How much more do you need? I don't know. Kyrie, on the other hand, just some of the other instances I look at, obviously saying he got dehumanized by Nick Friedel at ESPN, who's probably one of the better NBA and slash side reporters for ESPN. Or flipping the bird in Boston in the playoff game against the Celtics.
Forgot about that one.
There's too much. The anti-Semitic movie comments, him saying that he's allowed to say whatever he wants basically on his social media, and then complaining about it. Remember, we had this conversation about public figure with him?
Public figure, right.
And I'm like, public figure? Yes, you are a public figure. Stop complaining. Anything you say is like gospel to people. I know that's a interesting terminology or phrase considering he's very into religion, which I totally didn't even think about for a second. But he uses his religion as an excuse sometimes to get out of things he's done. I hate to say it, but that's what he does. His time in Brooklyn... go ahead.
Before we put a bow on the story, Nick, there were a couple of potential deals that kind of came out after the trade officially went through. So when I mentioned before that Joe Tsai didn't want him to go to the Lakers, so the Lakers actually came to him, and he and the Nets reportedly said, "Okay, if you want Kyrie Irving, you can have him, and we'll even take on the contract of Russell Westbrook." Which is obviously not going to happen now after Russell Westbrook just got traded, or is
close to reportedly being traded. Yes.
Yeah. But they said, but the Nets said, if we do that, then we want Max Christie, we want Austin Reeves, we want your 2027 first, your 2029 first, and we want pick swaps.
That was never going to happen. Never. That was from the Lakers side. That was never going to happen. That's basically mortgaging the future all the way to 2030. I mean,
Yep.
they've already done that for LeBron. LeBron probably has two semi decent years left, maybe with Bronny when he gets in the league.
Again, I was going to say, but again, when Bronny comes in, it's going to be the 2024 draft, and conveniently, he has an opt out right after that season, right before when the season ends, right before the draft. He has the opt out, so. It's obvious, Nick. I've said it before on the show. In my opinion, it's obvious. He's going to opt out, and he's just going to sign wherever Bronny Jr. gets drafted to.
I so hope Bronny Jr. gets drafted by the Knicks. I do.
You're going to put that on us.
I just want to see.
It's the Nets.
It's not going to be the Nets, so it doesn't matter. But the Knicks, I would laugh because it'd be 10 years too late.
Yeah.
But
let's go across the city. Let's go to the Clippers. Reportedly, the Nets had declined an offer that the Clippers had given. It was going to be Kyrie Irving for Luke Kennard, Terrence Mann, a future first and 2 first-round pick swaps. And you and I in the original recording both agreed that wasn't going to be enough for Kyrie.
No, it's not enough. I mean, and pick swaps, people forget. People think pick swaps is a thing. The only reason pick swaps became a thing is because they put a rule in place that you can't trade picks in consecutive years. That's what pick swaps mean, essentially.
But this one kind of blew you over a little bit. Per Chris Haynes, the Suns had reportedly offered Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, and picks for Kyrie.
What? What is Desai doing?
As I said, everything good that you said about Side now officially is over.
It's not over, but you're telling me you passed on Chris Paul and Jay Crowder and whatever the picks. It doesn't matter where the picks are at that point because Chris Paul and
the picks in a follow-up report from Haynes that said the picks were unknown. We don't know.
So it doesn't matter. The picks really don't matter because Chris Paul and Jay Crowder would have been a direct fit in right to Kevin Durant. And that would have been, Chris Paul is probably one of the greatest passers of all time in the NBA, assist leaders in the NBA. I don't get it. I don't understand.
But overall, let up. As much as we can complain now about the CP3 miss. I mean, you and I agree. Had to be done. Had to get rid of Kyrie.
Yeah, it had to be done. It was desperation times at this point. I think they would have taken 30 cents on the dollar for Kyrie if that's all. If it meant getting him out of Brooklyn. Now,
well, again, it goes back to what I was saying about the 125% rule and the salary matching stuff. That even with that in place, even if you were going to come out on the losing end of the deal after all that you've had, all that's happened with Kyrie, it's at this point, just get him out of Brooklyn.
And quickly, the other thing I left out about the Lakers, LeBron did an interview with Michael Wilbon on ESPN. And LeBron basically, without saying Kyrie's name, basically said, well, we could have had him. The Lakers were in it. LeBron, is that desperation I see showing from you?
I just want to have fun with my friends while I'm in LA.
I just want any team that I'm on to mortgage their future for 10 years so that it's my team and it's my rules and I get any star that I want. You know what? I'll even throw in an IOU for my son, Bronny Jr., when he enters the league.
Oh, Bron just wants to have fun.
Oh, my God. You were in the singing mood today.
Yeah, I apologize to everybody out there. I think we're going to lose subscribers after my singing.
Nah, I don't think so.
All right. Entering hour number 2, Nick. I'm so confused on this story. What? So, Ja Morant had associates, and apparently they got into some confrontation with Pacers. And
the traveling team.
The traveling team. And apparently there was an SUV that Ja Morant was in, and somebody in the SUV shined one of these red lasers on them. It
was a laser attached to a gun.
So something's gonna be done about this, right?
Oh, I don't know. With Adam Silver running the league, it's a mystery box, as Hank would say.
It could be anything. It could even
It
be a
could be a
box.
boat.
You know what it is, though, Nick? It's an Adam Silver slip-up.
Leave that up. What was I gonna do here? I wasn't ready for. Oh, now here we go. I mean, Mike Bass, my favorite person in all of the NBA, the guy who basically runs all the media and like media communications and whatever, basically behind Adam Silver. I don't understand this. This is like Men in Black bullshit going on here, like spy movie.
Except that's not the memory wiper.
No, you're right. But what? What is this? Is there like, or is this like a bad version of the Mob?
Well, they did say earlier about an offer you can't refuse. It seems like somebody might go sleeping with the fishes on this one.
It's what it feels like. I mean, now a lot of these stars are the ones that get the SUVs. That's like the big honking SUV you need like $100 to fill up the gas tank with, which most people can't afford now. But I digress. Anyway, but he was probably in the back of this SUV, and they were probably shining it against the window glass or whatever. But this is like real mob shit. I don't know. I don't expect much to be done. My favorite Mike Bass basically said, "Oh, we'll investigate it. We'll investigate it and see." Because the Pacers apparently were the ones that reported it.
We'll investigate it. Sure.
Sure, I guess. Whatever. Oh my God.
I'm on fire today.
You are.
Bring it.
All right. Where are we going?
One last thing in the NBA. So, the early opt-out deadline when it comes to the negotiations between the NBA and the NBPA, the Players Union for the NBA, it has been extended as these two sides are in some intense negotiations. So, Nick, do you think something's going to get done, or in the words of SpongeBob, are we going on a strike? Going on a strike?
Feels like it, or more like this.
Look at all the failure.
We're gonna bring in all the Nickelodeon shows at this point. I'm trying to find this story because I was reading it yesterday, but like teams were, or the league is complaining that 3 of the teams at the top, the Nets, the Warriors, and who was the other one? It might have been the Mavs now because of the Kyrie stuff. Or we're taking on all the cap hit, all the penalty money. And it was an insane amount of money. And I'm trying to find it because it was important.
I mean, Nick, in baseball, you got Steve Cohen setting new standards for his payroll for the Mets in this coming season.
Oh, you mean the Steve Cohen tax?
Yeah.
I mean, what did he spend? $800 million this year? I lost track.
It feels like it. $11 billion on free agents.
So technically the 7-year CBA expires after what, this season? Yeah, 2023-2024 season. They keep pushing the deadline out. I think it's the second time they've pushed it out.
24. Wait, before or after the 23 season?
After the 2023-2024 season.
Okay, so no, this is 22-23. So, but I guess there's an opt-out that can be done.
Oh, it says they voted. They voted whatever day it was to give the league's labor relations committee the approval to give notice of a June 30th opt-out on a labor deal.
So we've got basically till June 30th, or maybe even, June 30th I assume would be latest. So we've got till June 30th to see if there's going to be a sudden swerve and where we may not have NBA in 23-24 for some time.
Which I'll tell you in a minute why that's important. But like I said, it wasn't the Mavs, it was the Clippers. So it says they're trying to introduce upper spending limits. So we're talking about a hard cap. Just say the damn words. Stop calling it upper spending limit. It's called a hard cap. Okay? And
so we'd have both a soft and a hard? Or is it just going to be a hard then?
But they're calling it upper spending limit. It's really a hard cap. That's really what they're saying here. Kind of. So it says it's rooted in the desire of smaller market teams to rein the spending of franchises such as the Warriors, the Clippers, and the Brooklyn Nets in the wake of those large market contenders accumulating outsized payrolls and luxury tax penalties. Okay, let me summarize that, okay? Because this is all bullshit mumbo jumbo trying to make everybody feel dumb. Basically, the thing is, the NBA is crying foul because those teams are the only ones willing to spend the money and the rest of the league doesn't want to. So now the NBA is standing up for the other 27 teams and saying, why are they allowed to spend the money and we're not? Or why are they, just because they have money, it doesn't mean they have to spend it. Okay, well, go spend it. Stop putting the money in your pocket if you feel so bad about these other teams spending it and you're not. This sounds like so master of the obvious here. And it says also there's no pathway to get the new union leadership, President CJ McCollum, who took over for CP3, and Executive Director Tamika Tremiglio, to essentially accept a hard salary cap at such early stages of negotiations. So what that tells me is that strap in, everybody. This is going to be the long haul. This is going to be the long haul, everybody.
All right. So now answer my question, Nick, because what does this mean then for the 23-24 NBA season? Because I think I've said this, Nick, and you might have agreed with me, that if at any point, considering the NBA's momentum and then over the last couple of years it's been a little shaky, if there is a point where there is no NBA, then any upper trajectories that this league had are going to take a major hit.
I mean, the NBA was, and we've talked about this before, but they're playing games overseas now. Like, they have all these games, they're trying to expand overseas. I think they played in France in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, or Spain. A few places they played because they're trying to expand their outreach. But if you have a lockout, you're going to stop everything from free agency to deals to TV. Now, the reason I say TV is because there is a looming bankruptcy coming up for Sinclair, which has the Diamond Sports regional networks.
Oh, yeah. Sinclair Sports, yeah.
So they're responsible for 16 local broadcasts of the NBA teams.
Which means
it's more than it's half the league.
Which means if there's no NBA, then regardless of Sinclair, without NBA, that means ESPN, TNT, TBS, all the partners that you're affiliated with, they got to find some extra programming because of your screw up. Sinclair, without the NBA, Sinclair's probably going bankrupt. You're saying?
Well, that Diamond Sports Network, which sports regional networks that they own under Sinclair, would be gone because that's 16 deals they have with 16 NBA teams for their local channels. I mean, we saw with COVID that everyone lost money when they didn't have the programming in place. If the NBA goes in lockout, ESPN is probably going to take the biggest hit out of all those because they have the biggest deal. They have the most NBA programming and exclusive programming of the NBA. TNT just pretty much has its deal like for what, Tuesday and Thursday games, essentially, and inside the NBA. But they don't have as much at stake as ESPN does. So,
well, I'm just picturing it right now, Nick, knowing the world that I come from. It's late October, early November. The NBA is supposed to start, and it doesn't. And, what, would it be like a Sunday night or something? They would have because baseball would be over at that point.
It usually starts around Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
NBA season.
No, but I'm saying ESPN broadcasts, they're kind of just all over the place on ESPN, right?
Yeah.
So let's pretend it's just a Sunday night at 8 p.m. Oh, hey, Dana White. How you doing? Got some programming we could fill?
Well, I did hear whatever the deals there. I don't know who signed a new deal with ESPN, whether it was UFC or whatever. They're talking about putting more stuff on linear ESPN, is what I heard in the near future.
Well, UFC. When you say linear, you mean the main network?
The main ESPN network, not ESPN
Well,
Plus.
okay. Well, no, because it seems like now every summer when there's no NBA, no college sports, you see the UFC a lot more on the main ESPN channel to give them Saturday night content.
I'm sure Dana would be quite ecstatic to put
About a
some more
lockout,
buggers.
yeah.
But like, I just keep combing through the stories at Woj and Shams, both NBA insiders who are trying to break this all down. And
Mhm.
they're also talking about NBA marketplaces and smaller market teams. Well, guess what? Stop putting the fucking money in your pocket as an owner. Blame yourselves. Blame the ownership for not willing to spend the money.
Well, we just had that conversation not too long ago about baseball with owners like in Tampa Bay and in Oakland.
Oakland.
Yeah, who are putting the money in their pockets.
Last time I checked, Oakland's payroll is $29 million.
Is there a way we can do like the ka-ching cash register sound in reverse?
I wish. That'd be fun, actually. I'm sure I can figure that out. But Oakland's a dump. And I hate to say that because their fans don't deserve that.
Okay, actually, say it one more time. Say it one more time. Their money.
What, $29 million? It's kind of true. They are a laughing stock. But I don't know. Long story short, if they have a lockout and that whole situation happens, well, let me say it first. If they can't come to agreement, I do think a lockout is possible. But we could see what happened with MLB, where you lost like a week or two of games, and then they had
all
to
of a
find a way
sudden
to make it
came back.
right. So it's just a matter of them figuring it out. It's a money situation. Anyone who says it's not a money situation, you're lying to yourselves. Okay, it's all about what?
It's all about the money.
Thank you. And that's the argument that I'm going to live and die on because that is the facts of the situation.
All right, time for a little hut. Time to talk some football. We're not going to talk about Super Bowl just yet, though.
Okay.
We start things off with Joe Mixon. So there was Joe Mixon. So this story actually kind of came and went over the week that we had,
Right.
because it took place like right after we had finished last episode. So it was last week where basically an incident that took place on January 21st, one day before the Bills-Bengals divisional playoff game. Supposedly, Mixon had pointed a firearm at the alleged victim, of a woman, and said, quote, "You should be popped in the face. I should shoot you. The police can't get me." An arrest warrant got filed. A couple of days later, it just kind of went away.
Gee, is this going to go back to the whole thing I said about Deshaun Watson, where basically I say, well, he's an athlete. No one gives a shit about athletes. Well, we're just going to let them pass through the system. No problem.
Well, here's an interesting thing, Nick, and a little concern about, why I still think it's kind of important, is because the Bengals apparently can save a lot of cap next season if they dare to cut Joe Mixon.
Well, they have a whole heck of a lot of issues going on to it. T. Higgins, who might be on the market, with the rumors I've heard that they can't come to a deal, which, by the way, I said this to Johnny on Game On, I'll say it here too, that why are we arguing about rumors of trading people before they're up for free agency? I don't understand.
Well, it actually goes back to what I told you, I think it might have been last week, that I'm concerned because, like, you see this story come out, you hear the T. Higgins news come out, I'm like, it can't be like this, right? It can't be, because my concern is that, okay, they made it to the Super Bowl, not this year, but last year, ended up losing to the Rams. And I said it was the Rams' time. And I said, well, Joe Burrow and the Bengals They are going to get there someday. They are going to win the Super Bowl someday. That this was just the beginning. And I'm scared that those comments that I made back in 2022 after that Super Bowl will be the start to an SB Nation, or what is it, Secret Base Now collapse video. That the direction of the Bengals just from here.
It's like a bad stock. It just basically falls off, like because of someone released some bad information about a company, and I'm like, all right, just move on to the next one. But this whole situation is weird.
I know. Well, I mean, granted, the wide receiver core is a lot more important than Joe Mixon now, but granted, Mixon has, had a couple of pretty decent seasons not this season, but last season, probably his best. It was a big part of carrying that team to the Super Bowl. I'm worried, Nick, because of, I'm worried because of a couple of things. Number one, this is not the first time we've talked about Joe Mixon in trouble. There was a whole domestic issue right when he was getting drafted in 2017 that he was coming.
There's a history.
There is a history with him. And number two, again, because you mentioned the Deshaun thing, and there's something about that connects to this, and that just because he's not charged with something does not mean the NFL isn't going to do its own investigation and isn't going to give him some form of suspension. So now you're looking at potentially Joe Mixon missing several games at the start of the new season.
That's part of the CBA agreement, if I remember a couple last CBA back, that just because you weren't charged doesn't mean we can suspend you or punish you for something that happened. I don't know. And this is not the first issue we've had during this playoffs with players. You did a minute on it. I forgot what the other player was that we did that on. Who was the other? It was the Niners player, right?
Yeah, it was the Niners player. I always have to go to his name because I can never memorize it. Oh, Charles Amenu.
Yeah, Charles Amenu, who had an issue with a domestic violence situation. And
he played.
And he played, that's right. And because for some reason the Niners didn't see any issues with that. Also, you have the current situation. I don't know if you saw this with the Eagles. I can't remember the player's name. It came out the other day that supposedly he had like a rape situation and kidnap situation, and they had to put him on the exempt list.
That's wait. Are you talking about Omenahu or Mixon?
No, for the Eagles right now. The Eagles have a situation ongoing right now.
Ooh.
I'm trying to look it up. But it did happen because they were talking about it on all the shows today. Let's see if I can find it. Josh Sills. That's it. So the NFL has placed Eagles reserve offensive lineman Josh Sills on the commissioner exempt list after Sills was indicted Wednesday by a grand jury on rape and kidnapping charges stemming from a 2019 incident in Ohio. So.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
So, yeah, what?
Do something about this.
Yeah, do you really expect Rodgers to do anything? They have the most domestic violence in all professional sports leagues. Yep. And I can't even laugh about that one because this isn't funny. So,
all right, let's go out of the bad. Let's talk about some interesting things. So let's talk about the futures of Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. We talked about last week. Brady is hanging up the cleats. He is done for good this time. And now he says that in the fall, he's not going to go to the booth right away. He had signed a major agreement with Fox a season or so ago.
10 years, $375 million.
Once he retired, he would go there. He is not going to start right away, however. He's not going to be part of Super Bowl coverage. He's not going to be part of this next season. He is going to start in the fall of 2024. So Greg Olsen gets a little more time in the number one position with Kevin Burkhardt.
Yeah, I have a problem with this. So Greg Olsen should still be the number one, should always be the number one, and Brady should be the two. And the reason I say that is because Brady could end up like Romo.
We'll talk about Romo later.
But who is Brady in the broadcast circles? I get it. Like Fox wanted him badly because of his player resume and Super Bowl rings and whatever. We seem to hire people into the booth that don't have any broadcasting experience sometimes, and sometimes
Welcome
it doesn't
to the world
work.
of color commentators today. It's all former players and such.
I mean, I remember at ESPN, who was it? It was Jason Witten, who was an absolute joke in the Monday Night Football booth. I mean, and I guarantee you, ESPN, if they had one of those, what's that thing from Men in Black you were saying before?
Oh, the memory wiper.
If they had the memory wiper, they would go back and wipe away the Jason Witten situation, because he was totally lost in that booth.
I would make an ESPN and Booker crack, but again, ESPN is still holding all my respect for after what happened with Damar Hamlin, so I can't make that joke.
No, Booger was probably one of the better ones during that Damar Hamlin coverage. But
yeah,
Tom Brady, it's a wild card right now. You don't know what the heck you're going to get out of Tom Brady in the booth. Now, the one thing I will give him in benefit of the doubt, he does have a passion for the sport of football. He does.
I just hope he doesn't sound like a machine. I hope he lets some personality out. Like we talked about, Nick, when he first got to Tampa Bay that first season where they won the Super Bowl, that outside of Belichick, once he was out of the Belichick rule, he kind of, I can't say extremely let loose, but we got to see a little more out of him than we would have when he was under Belichick in New England.
Right. Yes. I mean, in Tampa, there was more of the laughing Brady than the I'm so serious and I don't do anything Brady in New England. Well, that partially might have had to do with Bill Belichick. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think I said this to you in the past. Like, he was a robot for 22 years, essentially. Now, we did see some personality. He does know how to have a good time in the post-game interviews. But the one thing I was going to say is people are reacting in this way, which I'm about to play, because of this news.
Oh, my God!
Oh my God, we're not going to see it until 2024. Oh my God. But wait.
I'm sure he's heard. I'm sure he's heard.
I mean, not that he needs the money by any means. Not that I like reaching into people's pockets, but what I was going to say is there is a method to the madness of why he's starting in 2024. And if people think it was only his decision that he started in 2024, you are delusional and don't know what you're thinking. Who has the Super Bowl in 2024?
Well, it's not Fox. They have it this year.
No, they do. I thought it was in 2024 they have the Super Bowl. That's why he's starting in the fall of 20 or what is it? No, it's going into the year after, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the reason he's starting in 2024 is because they have the Super Bowl in 2025.
Right.
There's a method to the madness, everybody. They just wanted him to say, "Oh, well, I needed a year off of my family." No, dumbasses. Look at the scheduling.
Right. I was gonna say next year. I think it's next year is the first year of the new cycle because next year starts CBS, then Fox, then NBC, and then ABC and ESPN are gonna return to the Super Bowl.
Right. So there's a method to the madness. They wanted him to do a Super Bowl in his first year. This has nothing to do with family. Tom Brady's family is so dysfunctional that I don't even know if he thinks he has a family anymore.
He gave it up for a year where the team ended up 8-9. Won the division, but 8-9.
For the love of football. Well, more for the detriment of his family.
And then got bounced out of the first round by the Cowboys in embarrassing fashion.
Ugh. Yuck.
He retired with Jerry Jones laughing all the way. Oh my God. We beat Tom Brady in his last game. Damn it, them Cowboys.
All right, let's go because we're ramping up on time here.
I know. Oh, Nick, here's what I want you to do now.
RELAX.
Shut the fuck up.
Aaron Rodgers. Well, guess what? He is. He's going dark.
That's right. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. The irony. He is shutting the fuck up. Got it. He's going into one of these dark houses, which apparently is like a meditation type thing. And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm going to go there for 4 days and basically sit in a house in the dark, and I'm going to determine whether I'm going to retire or play in the 2023 season." Hey, Aaron, how about go away forever and never come back? That's what I have to say about this.
I think he has some advice for you.
RELAX.
You know what? You shut up. You have no brains. You're the dumbest athlete I've ever heard in my life. You make LeBron James sound smarter than you.
Ooh.
And that's
Hold
me. What?
No. That
Oh my God!
You know what, Aaron? I think LeBron James has more brains than you'll ever have in your entire life. How about that?
If he was still dating that witch, I would have asked if she was going to be coming with him to that house.
I don't know what to say anymore.
Blue or Earth, whatever her name was.
I don't know. She had like 3 names or something. It was something with witchcraft. I don't know. But what I would say is, as long as he doesn't go to the Jets, that's all I care.
You know what? Since we're talking about broadcasting and decisions, let's just jump to this one. So, apparently, CBS has not been happy with Tony Romo and his coverage as of late on CBS, and they've tried some sort of intervention, and it does not seem to be working.
Gee,
I don't think it's working.
Gee, I wonder why. I don't know, Jim. I don't know why it's not working.
Which is funny because it was just a few seasons ago, Nick. Everybody loved Tony Romo.
He was the hot free agent in media, not football, media.
But everyone was praising him on his performances. I've seen some.
You know what it is? You know what it is? Oh, good. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, you know what it is? It was his prediction nonsense. Well, he was predicting all the plays, and that's why everyone got behind him. Oh, my God, he called the plays because he's a quarterback. Not the first time we've had a quarterback in the booth. Troy Aikman, Phil Simms. I mean, do I have to go down the list?
No.
This whole thing is dumb. It's dumb. If CBS, well, they're probably locked into the money. That's why he's not going anywhere. Probably. I mean, it was $120 million. It was a shitload. No, well, his money looks cheap now compared to Tom Brady. But
well, I was going to ask, do you think CBS is regretting putting him in and replacing Phil Simms?
Well, I wasn't the biggest fan of Phil Simms. Phil Simms sounded angry in the booth all the time when he's calling the game. I think he's doing perfect where he is right now, sitting at in the studio.
I was going to ask, who would you want instead of Romo? Would you want Boomer in there?
Boomer would be really good, in my opinion. I really like but I don't know if he can. That's a lot of travel. Also, having to get back to FAN and do a morning show.
Yeah,
like but he would be great, in my opinion, because he knows how to have a personality, and he's not going to try and say, "I'm the predictor. I know the answer to everything," like Tony Romo thinks. I mean, he almost said the freaking N-word on a broadcast, for crying out loud. He caught himself before he could finish the word.
I don't know about that, Nick.
I don't know, Jim. I don't know what's going on out here. I think I'm just flying around without a window.
Speaking of a window, well, the window between how Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, how they feel about Lamar's work is pretty big.
Yeah, well, I can tell you how the Ravens are feeling right now.
Wow.
That's how they're feeling, like just sarcastic.
I can tell you. Yeah, well, I can tell you also what this is all about.
Well, yeah, obviously it's going to be about that. Now, you and I had reported this last week that Ian Rappaport went on Pat McAfee's show and said that he's basically going to get the exclusive franchise tag. Gee, 2 hosts on this show said that many months ago, didn't they?
Well, I mean, on one end, I mean, Nick, this is kind of what the NFL gets for allowing Deshaun Watson all of that money.
Well, I don't know if I can blame that on the NFL. I can't blame it on the NFL. I have to blame that on Haslam, the owner of the Browns,
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
and also the agent.
I mean, do I think Lamar Jackson's worth $230 million guaranteed? I don't know. Maybe
330, right?
330, pardon me.
Yeah.
No. I don't know if any quarterback is worth that much. But
No.
now that that's out there, again, this goes to my concern about Lamar and his status with the Ravens and the potential holdout. It goes to my concerns about Danny Jones' status. How bad is the quarterback market going to be screwed up this offseason?
You want to know how bad it's going to be? Daniel Jones is supposedly the price tag is 34 to 37 million a year. Really? Not worth 34 to 37 million a year. Get the fuck out of here.
And Nick, like I would say, well, this could be like the baseball 17-18 offseason where the big stars are not going to sign for a while because of the money issues, but we have seen NFL teams get very desperate and overpay for players.
First of all, the NFL owners are not allowed to cry poverty. Sorry, that's not. I don't care.
Yeah.
The NFL has some of the richest owners in professional sports. Do I have to say Dean Spanos for the 10 millionth time?
I swear, we need the soundbite of Tree. Fuck you, Spanos.
We do. Actually, we should message him and say, "Can we get permission to play that?" I would play that every time. But I think Spanos is worth like $11 billion or $12 billion, and he refused to go off of Brandon Staley with $4 million. I mean, like the Lamar thing, just to put a bow so we can keep moving, is he's going to hold out. He's going to hold out. If they're $100 million apart, then there's no way they're getting together here. There's going to be a holdout. He's going to get fined,
especially if they're going to use the exclusive franchise tag.
Yeah, well, he's not going to come in unless he gets a contract. That's what he wants. And if that's the case, then he's going to be sitting on the sidelines. I could see this being a whole season thing. I really do.
Like Deshaun in 21. Remember, Deshaun's holdout in 21 was not because of the lawsuit. It was because he was holding out with the Texans.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a Deshaun 2021 holdout situation. I do.
I could see it. Nick, hip drop tackles. So, you notice how we had the flag football, the Pro Bowl games this past weekend? You know,
by the way,
I kind of have the feeling, yeah.
I was just going to say, I just saw a report from, what's the guy's name? Ari Medvedev, or however you say his name. He's like a big-time NFL insider. Mariev. He said that apparently Russell Wilson was one of the guys that went to Goodell and asked for the flag football game.
Oh, really? Well, Nick, I have a response to that statement. I wasn't going to play it today. You provided me the opportunity.
Well, I know. I probably just made a gaffe. Now that's going to be a great clip. Anyway, what were we talking about again? I can't remember now. Oh, that.
So I was going to say, so that flag football is probably what the game is going to look like in about a few years.
I mean, it's kind of like what they're doing in MLB right now, where Rob Manfred wants bigger bases and wants Little League Baseball on the field. I mean, why don't we just play flag football? They don't want to get hurt anymore. They're so worried about their precious investments.
So I'm confused. So I know the tackle has been banned by rugby, so fair enough. But if you can't tackle in the way that they're going to tackle from behind, if you have to control your weight, even though there are some situations where they flag that it's uncontrollable, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to tuck them into bed, read them a bedtime story, and kiss them goodnight?
I mean, they're turning the NFL into flag football. By the way, just to play a devil's advocate against the rugby example that they use, that's not a good example. Rugby is one of the most aggressive sports out there. You can attack people, you can kick and basically punch people. They have to tape their ears to play rugby.
Nick, you know what's next? If they're not going to go to flag football, they're not going to go to flag football. We're going to go to two-hand touch tackle first.
Ugh.
And then we got to do, the rush count. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi.
Can we just call this the Roger Goodell is soft league instead?
Hold on.
Well, yeah, obviously you're going to see that a lot probably over the next week or so. You might see that a lot on our Super Bowl pregame show live stream, I'm sure. But you know what? Athletes get hurt. NFL players get hurt. It's probably the most aggressive injury sport out of the major core four sports. If you're just going to take all the fun out of the NFL, people are not going to watch it. Now, people are complaining and saying, well, these guys get paid all this money. They should play as hard and they should play their hearts out for all those millions of dollars. Well, then you get people complaining about CTE and all this stuff. This is a lose-lose situation for everybody.
All right, Nick. One story. We're going to talk some baseball. Carlos Beltran is leaving the Yes Network, and he's going to join a front office. The front office of who? The Mets! Conveniently, a few years after they had hired him and fired him without even coaching a game due to the Astros cheating scandal.
Yeah, literally. What he said. Really? After you were hired as the manager and then fired, probably the quickest hiring and firing I've ever seen for a manager in MLB history. All because of the cheating scandal. Now you're going to put him in the front office?
Well, Nick, I guess because the Yankees decided to stick with Aaron Boone, because remember my theory that I had put out there, that if Aaron Boone had lost his job this offseason, he was probably going to be their choice to fill in. Just a theory that came to my head.
I don't know why people are so obsessed with Carlos Beltran. I don't know what the whole... He wasn't exactly the best guy in the booth either.
But because I guess player manager. He's not the player, obviously, anymore, but
I mean,
player's manager.
Why do you think they put him in the studio? Because he was terrible as a color analyst next to Michael Kay. I mean, like, it was bad.
Yeah, well, the Yes Network also cut ties with Cameron Maybin, too. So
that one I still don't understand. Cameron Maybin was actually really good. Now he's over at Bally Sports Detroit calling Tiger games, apparently, with a bunch of other players.
Well, Cameron Maybin also was a Tiger.
A Tiger, a Yankee, a Cub, an Angel.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think he's more of a Tiger than he is a Yankee, to be honest with you.
I was surprised when because he played with the Yankees, for 1 year or 2 years?
Yeah.
I think, and that's why he made it over to the Yes Network booth. But this really isn't news, so to speak. It's more...
Just something
It's surprising a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think there were long-standing rumors? Do you think they're going to go and get Derek Jeter at some point to have him in the studio?
Derek doesn't want to be in the booth. Derek kind of reminds me of Peyton.
That's why I was going to say, it's kind of funny that Derek and Tom Brady are both potentially being pursued for the booth, and they have both been, with how they are with the media, robot-like, I guess you can put it.
First of all, Derek wants nothing to do with media whatsoever. That's just the vibe I get. He doesn't mind.
He has his own. He has the Players Tribune.
Right, but which I think he was trying to sell reportedly. But I just don't see the fit of him, like Derek in the booth. I just don't see, maybe he could do 15, 20 games a year. Maybe, but he's never going to go full time back on the road. If that's what you're wondering, no. So Beltran, we don't even know what he's doing. All I heard is that he's working under surprise, Billy Epler, former Yankee assistant GM.
I know.
So it is.
Mets keep Metsing. Steve Cohen is having himself a day.
Or an off season.
Yeah. All right. Super Bowl this Sunday. Chiefs and Eagles. I mean, not the kind of Super Bowl that I wanted, Nick, but at the same time, it is. We talked about it last week. It is the Super Bowl with the big storylines. You've got Patrick Mahomes, who is slowly coming in as he is now that Brady and Rodgers team are out the door. He is the face of football at this point, and he is taking on Jalen Hurts, who he had a couple of seasons where but there was a lot of people saying, and I pride myself in being one of them as much as I'm a Giants fan. I said that I had believed in Jalen Hurts and that he was going to really blossom this year, especially now that the Eagles were able to get AJ Brown. Thanks, Tennessee. And yeah, I think Nick, he delivered and then some. So you got number one seed versus number one seed. You got Mahomes versus Hurts. You've got the Kelsey Bowl.
You have the Andy Reid Bowl. Yeah.
I think Nick, the fourth time in Super Bowl history where a coach is playing their former team in the Super Bowl.
Right. And also, I'm in NFL history, two black quarterbacks playing against one another.
Yep. I think the last time, by the way, that we had the coaches, the team coaching against their old team, I think it was Gruden, Raiders Bucks.
Yes, that's right. Yep. I mean, there's a lot of interesting storylines. Like we said, Kelsey brothers who do a podcast together, playing against one another. Like I said, last time I checked the line, I think it was Eagles -3, but that's going to change over the next couple of days.
Yeah, well, I'm not putting it here because obviously we're just going to briefly touch on this because we're saving it all for Saturday.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, as we speak, like, the line is going to change a little bit here and there. Not by a lot, but it will change. Will Patrick Mahomes be healthy? That's going to be a big thing. Will Jalen Hurts step up and actually have a better game? I think the most amount of yards he's thrown in all the wins is 130 yards. So he's going to have to step up and throw for a lot more than 130 yards if he expects to win this game. And I'm sure we'll get into this too. Does anyone give a shit about the Super Bowl coverage starting at noon?
I mean, Nick, but you got to have the pre-game show to the pre-game show. You got to have the pre-game show to the pre-game show. Then you got to have the pre-game show to the pre-game show. Then you got to have the pre-game show to the game. And then you got to have the game, and then you got to have the post-game show. And then you got to have the post-game show. And then you got to have the post-game show. And then you also got to have Fox airing whatever they're going to air as the lead out program, which I think is going to be Next Level Chef, they said.
Yeah, it is. It's Gordon Ramsay's show. But and then of course you have Rihanna for the halftime show, which I'm sure, and we'll talk about props. I don't even know who's doing the national anthem this year. I don't even know.
You know what? Good question. Let me check. What our favorite, the 2 minute and something mark, 2 minutes and 3 or 4 or 5 seconds.
Something like that, whatever they do the prop bet for.
The national anthem for Arizona, let's see, Super Bowl 2023. So our performers for this year, let's see. 8-time Grammy winner Chris Stapleton will be performing the national anthem.
Country.
Yeah. And then Babyface, a 64-year-old 12-time Grammy Award-winning recording artist in R&B, 44 number one R&B hits and 60 number one pop hits, will be performing America the Beautiful.
Right.
The Emmy Critics' Choice and Independent Spirit Award-winning actress Cheryl Lee Ralph will be performing Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Dang. Wow.
And then, this is just sign language stuff. In honor of the 50th anniversary of women flying in the U.S. Navy, the flyover will include female aviators as part of the formation.
Okay. So, and then, like you said, we have Rihanna, the halftime show. And then I heard reportedly she might actually be announcing a tour, which she hasn't toured or done music in God knows how long. She's having too much fun in the fashion space right now. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know if there was anything else to add before we...
Nothing really, because I think more we should be saving for this. So, again, myself and Nick here, Empty the Bench, will do one more crossover this football season with Game On, with Johnny Montalbano, Hank and Dictor, this Saturday, February 11th, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Live. L-I-V-E, live.
We haven't been live in God knows how long.
Well, the last time we were live was Jets-Jaguars game, right before Christmas.
Dang. Wow, it's been a while. Okay.
So we'll be going live. We'll be discussing the line then. We'll do all the prop bets with you love. We'll talk about the game. We'll break down position by position. We'll all give our final prediction, our final score at the end of that stream.
Yep. We'll do all the props, like you said, all the gambling. I'm sure there'll be plenty of funny prop bets that are going to come out. I'm trying to think. Well, you don't have Buck in the booth anymore, so you can't have fun with those prop bets anymore. But, oh well. But I guess that's it, right?
Yeah, that's going to be it. Obviously, because of the technical difficulties, we had to push off, so we can now just change it to this reminder. Every Thursday from now on is Empty the Bench. We are officially now a Thursday show. Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, as we were today. So we're staying in a 3 o'clock slot. We're just moving over from Wednesday to Thursday. My show, my other show, MMA Outsiders, with Albano, moving over from 9 a.m. Tuesday to 9 a.m. on Wednesdays. Stay tuned, by the way, to our ETB account, because we'll find a way to see if we can get Zan, who is over in Glendale for the Super Bowl right now.
At Radio Row. Yep.
Let's see if we can get any live coverage from there. And other than that, that's just going to be it. Just one more time, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure to hit subscribe and ring the notification bell. That way you get everything and notified of everything here at the Empty the Bench Network, from episodes of Empty the Bench, episodes of Game On, Fruity Cereal, 5 More Minutes Mom, and so much more. Also for every short that we do, because we're going to be trying to get it up with the shorts. You can follow the network. You can follow our show at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can follow the network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at ETB Network. You can find our social medias. They were just scrolling across the bottom there. Again, make sure to youtube.com/ETB Network here. And don't forget to go to etbpodcast.com, our website, to get more information on the network and see all the blog posts, all the topics that are being talked about on the blogs by a bunch of the hosts here at ETB.
You out of breath yet?
I think I'm good.
Oh, I have one more. So before
Okay.
I forgot. So there is a show coming back April 13th. I saw the announcement go out today. The Hearst show is back on April 13th. So yes, the Hearst show is back April 13th. That's my friend Kyle Hirschon, which I've done radio with in the past. And the first episode is going to be on 90s Con. He's going to 90s Con in Connecticut. So,
I like that the sound of that. So
the Hearst show is back April 13th. I don't know what day that exactly is, but
April 13th.
It's a Thursday. Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
So I think that's going to be a every other week podcast. So
okay.
So glad to have that one back in.
Yeah, glad to have Kyle back. I think that's going to do it. That's Nick Morgasen. I'm Tom Albano. We'll see you Saturday, 1 p.m. for our Super Bowl special live stream. And then we'll see you next Thursday at 3 p.m. for episode 172 of Empty the Bench. Until then, take care, everybody.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.
And Saturday.
Well, and Saturday. You're right.
Take care.
Bye.